Track and field fans, welcome to a special live edition of the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast. Were you not entertained? I'm Mr. Critic Robert Johnson, but we got some fabulous races tonight thanks to the new Grand Slam track format. We got to see Emmanuel Wanyonyi in the men's 1500, the Olympic champion, take down Kerr, Nuguse, Hocker. What a race. How much fun was that? We also got to see Gabby Thomas run a women of 400 all out with a lot on the line. And she delivered 49-17, I believe. How close was that to the American record, by the way? I saw Gabby run 49s way back in the day. Harvard University. I knew the potential was there, but she lived up to it today. We'll talk about that and much, much more. Shortly, we'll be joined by Jonathan Galt in Jamaica. He's running from the track to the stadium. From the stadium to his Airbnb. We'll be here any minute. We'll also talk about some things negative. Not going to lie. We'll talk about Grand Slam track not being ready for the big time technologically. The timing is terrible. I really thought they would have an innovative system to tell you who's winning the two event format. They have not been doing that. It's terrible, terrible. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Wanyonyi. Well, how about Derebe Wateji? She took down Nikki Hiltz and won $100,000. We'll talk about Kenny Bednarik completing the double. Super impressive. And then we'll talk about Gabby Thomas, 49-17. To win $100,000. Honestly, I think the technology that I just did in my humble abode here in Baltimore was more advanced than the technology you're seeing on the Grand Slam track broadcast. All right, enough of the graphics, folks. Let's get our star co-host, Jonathan Galt, on the screen. Jonathan.
Hey, Robert, you got to give me like a minute here because I just sprinted. Well, not sprinted, but light jog on the way back from the stadium to my Airbnb. I'm sweating like a pig right now because the air conditioning wasn't on in my apartment when I left it. I just turned it on. And, you got a beer? I got a red stripe for you here, Robert. How do you like that? I'm going to crack it in a second. But I need to rewatch the last lap of that men's 1,500 meters. And I know we want to start with that because it was fantastic. You're probably going to spend the whole episode giving yourself a victory lap, and sometimes you make these outlandish predictions and then you claim you backtrack or you say, I kind of meant this and I meant that. No, look, you were totally right here. Emmanuel Wanyonyi, the Olympic 800-meter champion, just steps up, faces the Olympic podium from the 15. I don't know if I'd call it wipe the floor with them, but he won. He looked amazing. So right. It was such an awesome race, and I need to rewatch the last lap because I ran down to the mix zone. So I just got to figure out exactly how this happened.
I wasn't even bragging. I forgot to show. I did text several supporter club members to see if they would show up on the show because I wasn't sure you would show your face. If you're new to the show, folks, I've been predicting for years Wanyonyi would be great at 1,500. He lived it up. While you're rewatching,
yes, 1 year. It was after he won the road mile last year and beat Hobbs Kessler.
Check to see if your mic's on because I'm getting a little bit of an echo here. So,
okay.
All right, folks. Jonathan Galt will be back in a second. What do you think, fans? We're letting the live viewers are piling up. Forgot to watch the Total Running Productions video. Anyone watch it today? Last night they had about 5,000. We're about 1/10 of that right now. Let's see what the fans are saying in the chat. Wanyonyi is the truth, says Buttermilk. Matthew Sentowitz had a great line, by the way. He said, the only person with a bigger smile right now than Emmanuel Wanyonyi is Jakob Ingebrigtsen in Norway. Do we think that Ingebrigtsen was up at like 2 a.m. watching this live? I'd love to know that. Love to know that. So, anyways, not sure what. We'll wait for John. He's watching. John, give me start waving in the background, and I'll know to put you in. Just looking at some of these chats. It's great to have you live, folks. This means you're a diehard track.
Okay, I'm back, and my mic should be better now, Robert.
Much better, folks. See, that's what I'm saying. Grand Slam track, if you want to hire me, I'll fly out in the morning. I'll fix your technology problems. I taught myself how to do a live stream. span of about 2 weeks during COVID. That sounds good. Sounds good.
Red Stripe, first sip after. Usually I reserve a sip until I've actually written something. I haven't written a word about this meat, but I'm ready to talk about it, Robert. It feels right. So let's get into it.
Apparently Kerr's been sick. All right, let's talk about the men's 1500. I should actually go back. I'd started a thread on letsrun.com saying, what do you think the winning time will be in this race? I mean, in recent years, we've had championship 1500s, but they've all been run one way, fast. And today, the beauty of Grand Slam track is, Michael Johnson said, there's no rabbit. So what were we expecting? I was expecting, I made a prediction here. What was the winning time? I believe it was, oh my God, folks, just bow down. Please tell me what was the winning time tonight in the men's 1500?
3:35.18. Why are we starting with the time? Who cares about the time?
Well, I'm just saying. I want these people to know who they're talking to. I predicted a winning time of 3:34.9, and I also predicted last year, for the last year, I've been saying Emmanuel Wanyonyi is much better than Hobbs Kessler. He beat him in a road mile last April or May. John said, don't read too much into that. I said he wiped the floor of Hobbs Kessler. Now I wouldn't say he wiped the floor of these guys, but he took them down. It was slow. I don't have the splits. It was like, 59?
I've got the splits. It was two flat at 800. Yeah, 59.34 for Hocker at 400. He still led at 800, two flat, 0.10. So I talked to him after the race, and he said that was deliberate. He wanted it to be a little bit faster to shake some of those 800 guys. And it worked with three of them. A-Rock, Hoppel, and Atoy were nowhere to be seen on the last lap. Clearly, the pace was not fast enough to drop Emmanuel Wanyonyi. But that made sense to me that he wanted it a little quicker. And then essentially the last lap was the milers and Wanyonyi. Actually, Neil Gourley amazingly had the fastest last lap in the race. He closed in 51:53, but he was coming from further back. He was only sixth at the bell. But yeah,
so
they tried to pay.
Were they at the bell 257? I mean,
they were 243 at the bell. So
he ran a 43 and then a 52.
Yeah, the last lap for Wanyonyi was 51:58, and he was a 57:89 for his penultimate lap. So he was 149 for the last 800. But yeah, 3:35. I think if you compare this guy ran 3:38 solo at altitude, kicking, really only trying the last 400 meters on a dirt track a few weeks ago. So you use all those conversion factors, you'd probably say that's around 3:35, and you would say he can go faster than that if he's pushed. And I asked him afterwards. I was like, "Hey, what do you think you could do?" And he's like, essentially, you can see the interview will be up on the YouTube channel, but he's like, "Look, this pace wasn't very fast for me. It didn't feel hard, and I still had a lot left." And you would think, logically, a 141 guy, he really shouldn't feel like coming through too flat for the 800. That shouldn't feel hard to him. And yet you look at Marco Arope and Bryce Hoppel, they're 141 guys, and they weren't able to hang. This is a freak talent we're dealing with. Wanyonyi, it's ridiculous.
Without a doubt. And I thought that from the road mile, just because the acceleration at the end, I only watched like the last 200. He just looked like he was playing with Hobbs Kessler. And then when you talk to his coach, is it Claudio Baradello, who's a marathon coach? He's like, look, he runs like, 20K. He runs, did you say like 20K workouts with these guys, like marathon runners and stuff?
I wasn't clear if it was workouts, but I think some of the, he'll go out for 20K runs with them, and it seems like
Frosty 13. No doubt in my mind, Wanyonyi would be a great 1500 meter runner. I think he could easily break 3:30. Frosty says Wanyonyi is the Kenyan Seb Carroll, identical abilities, 141 and 329. The most dangerous and a tactical 334 plus 1500. That's a good point. Ping pong edits. Can you email me? I want to send you a free t-shirt. Had a tough week. Like I had to go to the eye doctor despite being only 39 years of age. I'm like losing my eyesight. Worried I had cancer, might be a goner or something. And people need to really start giving Rojo more credit for his picks. Galt is smart in that he has a great memory and is good at processing information. But Rojo is just plain track smart, and track smart is all caps. Wow. It feels so good to just read that. John.
I know. I agree with you in general. I think you. If you
could combine me and you together, John, we'd be the most amazing person. Well, we need some more athletic ability. We would need, like, what athlete would we like to? I'm trying to think, like maybe a Lamar Jackson, you and me, just the three of us together.
Okay, I don't know how that's going to happen, reproductively. But anyway, Robert, I agree with you that's why I like talking to you about track. You know your stuff. Sometimes the names and dates are a little off, and that's where I come in. But like the logic you laid down, I to a point, I agreed with it. I just was like going against these guys who are running, 327s in Paris, that sort of thing. I'm like, these guys are at a really high level. And so I thought Wanyonyi could be decent at the 1500. I didn't think he'd be beating the best guys in the world. I do want to caution here. What's the date today, Robert?
It's April 5th.
It's April 5th. So I'm not rendering final judgments here. Certainly, I expect Kerr, Hocker, and Nuguse, and Jakob Ingebrigtsen for that matter, to all be significantly fitter 5 months from now at the World Championships in Tokyo. But, today you look at Wanyonyi, he could be a lot fitter than today he was as well. But your two huge performances here. One was a road mile in April last year. One's a 1500. I just want to keep it in perspective. This was a very impressive win. I think it showed he's got a lot of potential in this event, but it is April 5th. And I think these guys aren't in top peak shape yet or close to it.
Real quick, folks. I'm trying to figure out, is the 15-8 double doable at the Tokyo World Championship?
I already asked him about it, Robert, and he basically said he wasn't interested in it this year, I don't think. But he likes running the 1500 meters. Clearly, he's good at it. He said it was a fun event. And it does seem like he's open to the possibility of, maybe trying to run in a championship a few years from now. We got to remember, this guy's still only 20 years old. So he does have quite a few years of his career ahead of him.
The schedule is not good. So the 1500, it would work perfectly if the 800 was first and then the 1500 was second. It's like free money. Just why not try it? But the 1500 is September 14th, 15th, and 17th. So he'd be wearing himself out for the 800, because the 800 is the 16th, 18th, and 20th. So there'd only be one lap in between, but he'd have to run 5 days in a row. And he would be wearing, if it was the other way around, maybe he would do it. If you only had to run the 1500 meter prelim once, but that ain't going to happen this year. But,
okay, let's talk about the Americans here, Robert. I want to talk about Cole Hocker's tactics because he took this lead immediately, and when we got to halfway, I'm like, actually, this is probably pretty good for him. Yeah, he's breaking the wind, I guess, but it's not super fast.
Was it windy, John?
It was very windy early, and I think the wind died down a bit. Look at the wind for the 200. Yeah, the 200, which was run right afterwards, it was 0.2 meters per second wind. So essentially still. It's crazy windy during the day here in Kingston, but it dies down at night. And I don't think that was a terrible idea. He was in good position. The thing that I don't understand, and I think Cole Hocker didn't really seem to understand, is what happened at the bell. He just gets shuffled back. He gets gapped by Nuguse and Wanyonyi on the back straight. He rallied back. He closed pretty well. He was boxed in on the home straight. He just didn't have a lot of room to maneuver. But what happened there? I know the pace is picking up, but Cole Hocker does have a really good kick. Is it just he's more of a kicker from 200 out than 400 out? I don't know. Do you have an explanation? Because Cole basically was it was just kind of an odd race. I don't know what to tell you, man.
I don't have an explanation. By the way, someone said my mic sounded muffled. I just jacked up the do I sound louder all of a sudden, John?
I guess so. You sound all right.
It was a weird race. Some of these people are saying that, thank God that Yako's in these races where the Americans would get destroyed in these things. Why didn't they push the pace? They didn't push the pace because it's hard to push the pace. It's easier to run 60-second pace. If you're in the front and it's tactical, it's a great place to be because you're not running a lot of extra ground And actually, one thing that is less of an there's less of an advantage being in the front in a Grand Slam track race than there is in a global final, because in the global final there's more runners in the track, so there's more chaos behind you. Here, there's only 8 guys, and I was stunned. As slow as this race was, basically 60 seconds for the first 1,000, they were basically running single file. There wasn't any up and back. There was no. It was a perfect race for Wanyonyi. He was just running, like nobody was bothering him. He didn't have to move up or back. He could just run easy.
Right.
And
I was asking him about the tactics, like how was he finding it, and he didn't seem to. He's like the 800's kind of difficult. He didn't say that much about it, but I'm just thinking of processing this. The 800 is not an easy tactical race either. In positioning, you got to make these decisions really quickly. And this kind of race, you're right, Robert, it did set up well for him. I was impressed that he didn't get overexcited the last 200. And maybe that comes from the 800, running the 800, because he always does have a very strong last 100 meters. That is one of the things we know about Emmanuel Wanyonyi.
Yeah.
The question was, would it be there in this 15? But, you had Nuguse and Kerr battling for the lead up front on that final turn. And Wanyonyi, rather than trying to go wide and swing by them, he was just content to sit behind them, run the shortest distance, and then the home straight is really where he opened up and we saw that power. And Robert, he looked easy crossing the finish line. These other guys are straining, they're trying to hold on desperately. Like Wanyonyi just gets that gap. He has time to do a little, fist pump across the line. Like he looked good winning that race. He wasn't straining as much as you would think for a guy who just beat some of the best milers in the world.
I was stunned. We got another text by that saying how relaxed he looked. I was stunned. I mean, there was basically 3 or 4 guys abreast with like 50 meters to go. And then he only came by with about 20 meters to go. And then he put his hands out like, I got this. Like he was already celebrating. I'm like, oh my God, bud, make sure you win it. But it was fun. Someone's asking in the chat, Nigel, is this 51.5 the fastest last lap ever for a sub 340 race? If John Kellogg was here, well, I'm hoping to do the regular podcast maybe on Monday. I've got a colonoscopy on Tuesday. But John Kellogg could tell me instantly what the fastest splits are. But back to that Hocker question. I was kind of just like heading into the bell. I'm like, okay. He says he's the best. When I was doing, I did a live broadcast while it was going on. I was like, okay, this guy says he's the best racer in the world and he has the best last 200. And then he got dropped with like 300 to go. He actually did probably have the best last 200 in that race. I mean, it looked over for him with like 250 to go. And then all of a sudden he was rallying up. And I just think that some guys are good at like really changing gears and slamming it. And then some guys are just hesitant to do that. And his strength clearly is the last 200. Maybe it's a psychological thing. I don't know. And one thing we've got to give credit to is Nuguse. Like when this race was going off live, I thought, look, I don't see how Nuguse wins this race. I view him as the Ingebrigtsen of this race. Like he can't kick with these guys. He's going to need to set the pace. I don't think he's got the gut to do that. And he's going to get out kicked. And you and a supporters club member texted me both, I think. Definitely one of you said, Nuguse has got a sneaky last 100. He looks all out with 100 to go. It looks like he's going to get wrecked. And then he rallies back on the guys. He's extremely strong. And, this could be fun. I can see a scenario in Worlds where it looks like someone's going to come from behind. You always think the guy on the shoulder is going to pull it off. You could see someone coming from behind on somebody, briefly grabbing the lead with maybe 8 to go and then losing it again. But, man, I guess we won't have Wanyonyi in there. But it's epic when you've got so much talent in this event. And thank you, Grand Slam Track, because like would we have ever gotten this in the Diamond League? I don't think so.
No, this was awesome. Like if you're trying to make the case for Grand Slam Track, this is this is Exhibit A. You say we got Emmanuel Wanyonyi, the Olympic champ, stepping up to face the Olympic podium from the 1500. The race was awesome. You may have seen this coming, Robert, though. I'm not sure. Did you actually pick Wanyonyi on our Friday pre-race or Thursday pre-race show? I don't actually remember that happening. But yeah, this race was amazing. And this event, when we think it can't get any better, the men's 1500. Can you imagine throwing Wanyonyi into the mix? Unfortunately, this is going to be his only Grand Slam track meet. It's not so easy for him coming over from Kenya, but
What do you
my
mean? He
God,
said
this
this
was.
is it?
I talked to Baradelli. It doesn't sound like they're planning on coming over and doing another one because
100,000 doesn't motivate them?
I don't know. I mean, he's an Olympic champ. It is a lot of money, but we'll see. Maybe he changes his mind. Maybe if he wins this thing, he thinks, oh, okay, actually, I can take home 100K. I'll come back and
you
run.
don't want to necessarily wear yourself out, and like in the end, it would be interesting. Like, let's say you win all 4 of these Grand Slams, but then you lose the World. A-Rob wins the 800 at Worlds. Like, are you happy? Are you sad for the season? Harrison Fraser says, let's talk about this. What do we think Jakob Ingebrigtsen, whether he watched this race live or whether he wakes up in the morning and sees this and watches it, what is he thinking of this? Harrison says he can close 148 at 335 race. I think he can close at 148, but can he close the 57, 51? You can't just say 148. Yes, he can go 54, 54. But I mean, he does that all the time.
I'm sure
he runs 140. He can close. He closes 328 races in 148 almost. Like, but can he do it this way?
Jakob is probably thinking he would have won that race, but I look at that and say you can't outkick Kerr. You couldn't outkick Hocker, in the Olympics last year in a 327 race. I don't think you're outkicking Wanyonyi tonight. I just don't. But that's what is exciting. Like, I really hope we could see Wanyonyi against Ingebrigtsen and how that race would play out. And Robert, back to your point, I did look at the 200-meter splits, and Hocker did have the fastest last 200. He closed in 25:44. So I think maybe that is it. Maybe he, like you said, he's a guy who, when he smells blood at the very end, he's got that great acceleration, really good last 200, but having a 51 last 400, maybe that just hurts him a little bit. I don't know.
Not to totally mock Grand Slam track, but where did you find 200-meter splits? Everyone's been complaining about the splits.
Can't talk about it basically they provided it to me as a member of the media, but they don't have a publicly available splits at the moment, and that's something I think they're working on moving forward. By the way, Wanyonyi's last 300 was 38:37, which is absurd. So it's just, in a 335 race, that is really moving.
Is it a website that you access the splits, or do they email them?
Yeah, there's a website. Like I said, I can't share it, unfortunately, because it's a media thing.
All right, let's talk about the technology of this. You're not watching at home, but we've been talking about the 2-race format for weeks, months. What would it be like? Would we instantly like it? Would we hate it? I still think it's going to take time for us to know, but I really thought like it might be complicated. And then heading into today, I'm like, are they going to, heading into the series, I thought I was really impressed by Athlos and how the TV presentation was, stuff like that, the visuals. And I thought, okay, they got $30 million here. Are they going to have some innovative way to tell us like who's winning the series? Is it going to be distracting? I thought they would have some innovative technology. And then right before the meet started today, I went on the message board and I was like, based on what happened on day 1, I don't think they're going to have anything innovative. And the reality was it was less than innovative. It was extremely disappointing. And I don't even think they train the announcers. Like, as a former high school math teacher, I should have had a 30-minute sit down with them. Like, basically, in every event, an event winner is going to win the series unless they're worse than 5th in the next event. So that's just one thing to understand. Like, if you win, as long as you win the top 5 other event, one of the event winners is your winner. That's all you need to worry about. But
Robert, is that a problem to you? I do think that winning is pretty important and should be rewarded.
It's not a problem, but they're not explaining it well. And then, like, you're watching, even I made this mistake. Like, you're watching like Paulino and Gabby Thomas battle it out for second women's 400. That didn't matter. Like, Thomas ended up beating Paulina, but she could beat her anyways, as long as Nazer won it. But I really think what they should have done is, at a minimum, kind of have like, how did I get the damn banner in front of my face off? Thank you. Everybody knows this is the Grand Slam track. Sure. like I think at a minimum, when it finishes, they should put up the results one at a time. So Jonathan Galt, we're racing John in the men's 10,000. You beat me, obviously. You're a little bit younger. Then there's
I got a faster PB as well, right?
Jonathan Galt pops up on the screen. It says Jonathan Galt, Dartmouth College, UK, and then it puts your time, and then it puts either the total points or the points for the race and total points. You can do both. And then when the timer goes to the second, they put Robert Johnson, they put my points, my time, and then they put the points. And then you could just feed them up one after another, and then you could see it just coming down. And it would be like within 5 seconds and show it on the screen pop up. Instead of doing this math, like this isn't hard. Like the fact that they can live score I'm not saying it's easy, but smart technology people can do this. The fact that they can live score a cross country race every K instantly is amazing to me. So I actually thought they might have live. I was afraid they were going to do the opposite and have like live graphic on the actual race feed that would be distracting. But what they have now is terrible. It's terrible. So, all right, that's the men's 1500.
Well, I guess, do we talk Kerr? We just sort of say he's sick, and
did he confirm?
Who did you hear this from? I didn't get a chance to talk to him because they all came through at once.
Somebody in the message board said somebody on the chat said he was sick.
Well, it's kind of unfortunate for him, given he's tried to run 2 races this year and was sick at Melrose and then sick again. I mean, that just, it's a bummer, I guess.
But he was there, with 200 to go.
Right, he was there with 50 to go. He was fighting out for he put himself in good position. If he truly is sick, it's a pretty good showing by him. And then I honestly didn't realize.
Does this change anything for Worlds for me? No, it doesn't change anything. The top 3 are really good, and Jakob's really good.
I didn't realize how close Gorley got at the end, though. He ends up running 3:35.60. Wanyonyi was the clear winner, but Nuguse was 3:35.36. Cole Hocker 3:35.52. I mean, I guess Gorley, he's had been running pretty well indoors, had a bad Euros and then a great world indoors behind Jakob, but I guess it's not totally unexpected. He was an Olympic finalist last year, but I didn't think he'd be as close to those top guys as he was. So it's a good, solid run to him.
Well, I guess Neil Gorley was, it's amazing. I mean, we're saying Kerr's bad. I mean, between now and September, like he's 0.43 off the lead, right? 0.43.
Oh yeah, no, there's no reason to panic about any of these guys. It's a competitive race. Like I saw someone like, you can't be like, oh, they didn't win this race, or whatever. It's like, well, this is what happens when you get a loaded field. Someone really good has to get 4th or 5th. That's just how it goes. So
I bet Neil Gorley. I'm trying to look it up, having some internet problems. Was Neil Gorley closer to the win today, or was he closer to Jakob at World Indoors?
I don't know. He was 0.42.
How far back today was he? I'm looking this up right now.
0.42 back today. So, also while Robert's looking up that stat, Bryce Hoppel got a PB 3:39, and he avoided last place by 0.02 of a second. Him and Mohamed Atoy of Spain were battling it out. So I'll be interested to see. I think Wanyonyi obviously has to be the favorite in the 800 tomorrow, and it's going to be fun to see how these guys will turn it around. I expect Arope and Hoppel to be much closer, obviously, because that's a special event. The question is, how does Nuguse or Hocker or Gurley or Kerr respond? Are they able to close that gap? Is someone able to break up the 800 guys? I feel like I'm talking to Adam Schefter here, Robert. Have you got some breaking news from an agent that you're taking phone calls during the podcast? I don't know what's going on here exactly, but okay, apparently it's pretty urgent because Robert is getting... Robert, who was that on the phone? Okay, no, he is getting up and leaving. So yeah, let's move to the last event of the night, which was the women's 400. And this was an event where it was the second one of the series. So as Robert said, I was kind of looking into this and thinking, all right, Gabby Thomas, she's got to get second here and be close to Paulino, because Marilady Paulino has not lost a 400 meter race in almost 2 years. Her last defeat, I believe, was July 2023. And we knew that NASA was in good shape. She did run 48 seconds last week, but in the 200 yesterday, granted that she's not like a crazy great 200 runner, but neither is Paulino, and Paulino was second. And I thought, okay, Paulino beat her in the 400, in the 200. She usually wins in the 400. She won the Olympics. She's probably going to win tonight. And not only does she not win, she doesn't even get second. And at the same time, she ran 49:35. It's April 5th. That's a very impressive time for this early in the season. So if you're Paulino, I mean, maybe it's a dent to your ego. You got smoked by NASA and you lost to Gabby Thomas, who it's a little unfair to just call Gabby Thomas a 200 runner. She is the Olympic champ. That's her best event. But we've seen since she was at Harvard dominating the Ivy League, she's always been able to run a good 400. To run 49:14 in April is pretty ridiculous. And I guess Gabby Thomas, I didn't get a chance to talk to her afterwards because they were doing this awards ceremony and then I had to hustle over. So she didn't quite make it through the mix zone, but maybe she's just been a little bit more strength oriented recently because her 200, she won the 200 on Friday. She only ran 22.6. So this was clearly a more impressive performance to me, even though she was beaten pretty handily and got second, because for her to run that big a PB in her, quote unquote off event, I think is tremendous. So it was a great run by her. But you got to talk about NASA. I mean, NASA didn't get the overall title that went to Gabby Thomas, but 48:67, that's fast any time of the year. Okay. It's ridiculous on April 5th. And she's now run 248s. And we're in the first week of April. I don't really know how to process this. I mean, maybe this is just her event finding her way back after that ban. Like she's been getting better and better the last couple of years, but pretty crazy performance. Robert, you're back. I'm glad that I didn't have to do the whole rest of the show without you. I don't know how I would have managed.
What I missed? Women's 400 talk?
Yeah, I was just talking about, I mean, it's a good race for all three of them, right? Like Paulino, if you're Paulino, can you really be that upset with running 49.3 in April to get third?
Well, you're upset because you did better than expected in the 200. And you think you're going to win $100,000. And I was impressed by Gabby. Like in the sense of we knew she had potential in this event. I mean, I watched her probably split around 50 flat last week, but I had seen her run that 49-44 split. By the way, that was one of the highlights of my broadcasting career. I used to be the voice of the Ivy League.
Hand timed it down to the 100th, right? You got the split correct?
Correct.
Robert, you're not seriously pulling it up, right? We don't.
You can't hear it, can you? So it's not playing the sound.
I can hear it.
Oh, okay. There we go. Anyways,
why are we watching a 7-year-old race?
So, anyways, she had the potential, but she did quite well today, and I kind of assumed. We were joking on the chat today that I thought Paulino. Well, it wouldn't matter though because Thomas lost to Paulino. I was wondering if one athlete would bribe another athlete so they could win the $100,000. Like Paulino pays Naser not to win the race, and then lets Naser win and they go 1-2. Lets Paulino win and they go 1-2, and then that way, Paulino gets 100,000, Naser gets 50,000, and Thomas gets 30,000. Because the way it ended up was. Thomas got 100, Naser got 50, right?
Yeah.
And then Paulino only gets 30,000. So I do think you can see why some of the big names might not show up. If you're not getting is 30,000 that much more than what you get at a Diamond League?
Well, I mean, I guess with appearance fees, yeah, it depends. If you're an AA, not a lot of people are pulling down 30K appearance fees, Robert, in the sport.
Correct. All right. So we've talked men's 15, women's 4. We haven't really talked at all, have we? About the
Women's 15. Let's go there. Daribi Welteje won tonight, and because she was second in the 800 on Friday, she gets the overall victory. It was pretty commanding win in the end. So obviously a good run, a good weekend for her. She's coming off the silver at World Indoors, and yeah, not entirely unexpected. She was in good shape coming in. I think the 800 was a bit of a question mark, but she performed well there. I mean, having Mary Moraa just, she DNS tonight, so something seems to be up with her. And for the record, she will still get paid in terms of the scoring. If you get 0 points, so that means like a DQ or a DNF, which is what's going to happen to Clement Ducot, the 400 hurdles. He DQ'd in the first race, and then he will be a DNS in the second race. That makes 0 points. You don't get paid. But if you run the first race and then you DNS due to injury like Moraa, you will get paid the lost pace prize money, which is $10,000, not insignificant. But yeah, good run for Welteje. And I think Nikki Hiltz over the weekend, this weekend was very good for them. Winning the 800 was obviously a highlight, and they beat Jessica Hull today. Now they lost to Welteje and Susan Ajuri, but Susan Ajuri beat Nikki at the Olympics last year as well. I don't think that's exactly like a disaster. It was a good spot. And I think I asked Nikki, how did they feel about where they've been at this season? Do they feel like they're making progress? And essentially the answer was yes. They felt they improved from 23 to 24. And that happened in terms of placing in times, making the final in Paris and running 3:55 at the trials. And their hope is that they can make another leap and keep improving this year. Obviously, there's a coaching change, but Nikki's indoor season was very good, and I think they are confident they can continue to make progress in this event.
I'm glad she, or they, whatever. Can I just say she? If I make a mistake, I'm not going to intentionally make the mistake, but I'm not going to go out of my way to try to get it right. Nikki was fantastic in the 800 yesterday. PB, just whole big PB. But today was disappointing, and it shows you that coming back a day later is not the same thing. I thought a 4:04 race. I guess she did beat Jess Hull, but as good as Nikki had been running, and she has such a sense of the win and sniff for the win, and she's kind of like a Cole Hocker. Like I really thought she would be more competitive in a 4:04 race. This wasn't a time trial. This is something that plays into her to her wheelhouse, and kind of with like 300 meters to go, it's like kind of the same feeling I had with the Cole Hocker. I'm like, why is Nikki way back there? So I was kind of surprised. But
I do agree with you on that, Robert. I thought the winning time was like, if you told me this was going to be a 4:04 race, I didn't think Welteje would win that much, by that much. And I thought, especially given the 800, Nikki would be closer than they were.
So Frosty 13:15. Grand Slam is super fun. It allows the fans to see fantasy matchups and their specialty and non-specialty events. It's here to stay. It's fun, but or is it still going to be fun if we had this every year? That's what I'm not sure about. And yeah, it's fun to see Wanyonyi run a 1500, but is it really fun for A-Rop and Hoppel to get destroyed in the 1500? Like in some of these events where it's such a big difference, or to see these 400 guys who never run the 200. These 400 guys, some of them only have like 1 200 on the telescopes profile. Like, is it fun to see that, or see these 100 hurdles run the flat 100, and that's how you win 100 grand? Like, is it going to be fun after the 8th time we see it? I don't know. It's really fun one-off. Really fun. It's like Warholm versus Mondo in the pole vault. So
well, that one wouldn't be too fun. I think I know who'd win that one. In the 100 would be good.
But like the concept of fantasy track, of seeing things we've never seen, of things that would be debated in the message board, to see it in reality is amazing. But will it be amazing time after time? And some of these off events, I don't really care. Like So I think they're going to make changes. I hope that they're smart enough to make changes. But man, there was that one editorial that you sent me today. I was stunned by it. The founder of the Diamond League called it Grand Slam flop. It just ripped Michael Johnson. We'll have to put this link on the homepage. My God.
It seemed like he still had a grudge with Michael Johnson for asking for a huge appearance fee in Zurich in 1996, which, to be fair to Michael Johnson, if there's any time for basically any athlete to ask for a huge appearance fee, it's Michael Johnson after he won the 200 and 400 in Atlanta. So I don't know, but it's too early to be burying this and rendering any sort of final judgments on Grand Slam track. But I do let's talk about some of the larger issues. We've got someone called Weldon Johnson who has paid $20 to the YouTube chat, paid to himself. I don't know exactly how that transaction's going on, but he says, have you discussed the double format? What if they just paid each event separately, $50K to first? The only thing I do like is there's a lot of money on the line, so there's no questioning people going to the line. I did consider that. I'm like, what if they just paid out each race? I wouldn't totally be opposed to that, but I don't mind the pay structure in the doubles. For now, I don't see any reason to change it. And I guess one thing to go along with that, because I tweeted about this and it seems like it's getting a lot of traction. The winner of the men's 110 hurdles today, Dylan Beard. Do you see if you look at the results, Robert, I'm not sure if you have access, if it shows this on the Grand Slam website, but under his sponsor, it says D4/Walmart. So this is Dylan Beard. He won Milrose last year in the 60 hurdles, and he was famously working in the deli department at a Walmart when he did so. And Walmart basically caught wind of this. He's one of the best hurdlers in the world. And last year they tried to come up with some kit for him, and it didn't adhere to the World Athletics logo rules or whatever, so he couldn't wear it. And then this year, he's still working there. He's at a different department now, but still working for Walmart. He does take some time off, to travel and do some of these meets. But they said, okay, yeah, we'll design you a special singlet. They use the Sam's Club logo. Sam's Club is like a sister company or whatever. It's the Costco equivalent of Walmart. And so the singlet he wore tonight was light blue with the Sam's Club logo, and he's listed as Walmart as his affiliation, and he won the 110 hurdles. So he's in pole position to take home the 100K. Obviously, you've got the 100 tomorrow, so he still needs to run well in that. But I was just talking to him, and he was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And, as essentially this win, if he gets this 100K, that is life-changing. That essentially, he can, if he wants at that point, just quit his job and say, I'm going in full-time on track and field. And, who knows if he'll get a sponsorship out of it. I would imagine someone would want to pick him up pretty soon if he's winning a Grand Slam track meet. But it's just that shows you what prize money can do to some of these challenges. It can change their life.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Sam's Club singlet? Are you on board or not, Robert?
I love it. I do think, we're talking a larger, are we going to talk about all the companies in this world and the rich billionaires that get rich by not providing health care to their workers, and then the government subsidizes because they're poor, and then so basically all of us taxpayers are funding Walmart shareholders? That would be a long talk, John. But I'm pleased that Walmart backed him, and he still likes his job. And I think sometimes, I don't know, training full time can be boring. Like we found at Let's Run, because we didn't want to just sit around, okay, we can only train for 3 or 4 hours a day. What are we going to do for the other 4 hours? Back then, you couldn't waste as much time on the internet. Facebook, Twitter didn't exist. But
and let's talk briefly about the crowd as well. It was better than it was yesterday because they essentially said you can come in for free in the general admission areas, which were, essentially every part apart from the home straight. But because of, it's like Haywood Field, the back straight bakes when the sun's out. So no one wants to sit there. So essentially all the general admission people pulled around just past the finish line and just before the 100-meter start. Crowd was definitely better. I wouldn't say it was impressive, but the atmosphere was good. The people who were there, there's a lot of horns. You can see, I didn't notice them yesterday, but on the way, I noticed the horns. I did not notice the vendors outside the stadium, but today maybe it's because I got there a little later. There are just people selling like these stacks of these little horns. And that creates a good environment. They were into the sprints as they usually are. And so, yeah, it was a better crowd. I'm not ready to say it was like a good crowd, but it was better than yesterday for sure.
Wait, Joe. It's talking about the hoop. Yeah, I do think, I don't know. I was worried about the attendance because I've been on the website, and when we started the broadcast last night, I mean, in the NFL stadium, we finished 45 minutes before, would be empty 45 minutes before race, but before kickoff, I was just panicked. The visuals were not good last night. Much better today.
All right. Anything else you want to hit?
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like Matthew Hudson Smith won $100,000 for running 20.77 in the 200 today. Like, do we really need to see them run the 200? I guess it's an endurance.
I don't think I think once is fine. I don't think I need to see them do it again 3 more times. But Robert, they need races. I've seen a lot of complaints from viewers that, well, one of my close friends, a Let'sRun.com supporters club member, texted me during the meet and was just saying there's not enough going on between the races. Diamond Leagues, you have field events, or these ones, there's this gap. And I haven't been watching the broadcast. Like, as a member, I love it as media because I'm like, oh, this is great. I can do interviews without missing races. But if you're at home, like, what are they doing to fill time? And is this annoying to you, or are you okay with it? Like, are they breaking? Do they have Centro come on and break down some of these races? What's happening in between?
I actually think the Diamond League is too packed. There's too much going on. The time between the races is fine. What was a disaster tonight on the Peacock broadcast was, so in the US, a lot of our viewers are international. There's a thing called Peacock, which is like a streaming segment of NBC. And I guess it was also broadcast on CW, which is like the 8th station for NBC or something. But they would be talking, and then there was clearly an international TV break for people that had TV, but they didn't tell you. So they're like, oh, wait. Well, at one point they said, well, we'll be back. But it would just go to like a screen. They would just show somebody eating a hot dog in the stands, or they would just show like the track and it would be like that for 4 minutes. And there was no graphic that said commercial break. We are on commercial.
Yeah, that's not good.
And this happened repeatedly. And our intern was like, what's going on? I'm like, this must be the commercial break for CW. But they could have done a better job explaining that. No, I actually it's interesting. It's a hard thing to do because the presentation, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, who's taking his children out of school, driving from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia to go to Grand Slam Track Philadelphia, by the way. He's like, the presentation of track for TV and the fans is different. Like, I actually like about 10 minutes between the events. You can go back to Centrowitz. He can analyze the previous race. They can anticipate. What do we say? The best part about going to casino when you're in the parking lot. The best part.
Is he doing that though? Is he talking about the races before and after?
Sometimes, not always. Okay. So sometimes they go to a race and it's just like they're lined up and there's been no analysis of what we should expect, like who's really the favorite. And I think that would be good. But
you need to let people know the standings. You need to make it clear this person needs X, Y, Z to happen if they're going to win the crown, right?
And then if they do that, though, like the fans at home, I mean, the fans in the stadium, what are you going to pipe in the audio to the stadium? That would be too annoying. So it is, I would imagine, be a boring, my friend who's been to a lot of sporting events, he's like, you go to a hockey game, they're shooting T-shirts into the stands. They're cheerleaders. That's what Chris Lear and I said about Melrose 30 years ago. It's like, there's no fireworks. There's no music. There's no an outdoor stadium. There's normally not a Jumbotron. You can have the fans in the stands, the Jumbotron. You can have Berlino, the mascot. They've got to work on some of that. But, anyways, but some really exciting races. The men's 1500 was unreal. Gabby Thomas and Acer were unreal. Kenny Bednarek winning the 100 and 200 was very impressive. We didn't even mention Tia Jones, who has been in the news a lot because she's in charges have been filed and not filed, and with the NFL, she was dating or engaged to NFL star Xavier Worthy. She's been training well because she won the 100 hurdles in the surprise. So, yeah. There he is, Supporters Club member Ross McGowan, aka my favorite runner on the message boards. We aren't getting enough center, in my opinion. He's great. He's a natural. He's a natural on TV. And he in the studio role. I don't know how good he'd be play by play. But
well, I gotta. What's going on in the? I totally forgot. We're in the middle. Robert, do you think it made any difference that they scheduled this to go up against the Final Four, or is this just like not, different audiences or whatever? I mean, the first game of the Final Four is not really that. I guess the big one's Houston Duke, which is going
my
on right
dad
now.
called me about it. There's a guy named Clayton, which is my son's name. Darn it. How many people in the chat just root against Duke? I root against my white privilege every time I get a chance to do it.
Okay. Well, I shouldn't have segued us to college basketball. And the less said about Brighton and Hove Albion versus Crystal Palace this morning, the better.
I'll say this about ESPN. They're a joke of a website. Like at Let's Run, we present track and field like it's a professional sport and like it's a serious sport. We cover elite running, and we cover with a focus on distance running. And whatever's elite and whatever's important, we put on the homepage. We don't put only what we broadcast. We don't try to like get you to watch what we want you to watch. We put up what's important, period. ESPN, like you go to the website, like they'll put, I'm like, obviously I'm looking for the Final Four scores, and they'll be like WNBA semifinal today because they're broadcasting it. I'm like,
the homepage of the ESPN right now has men's basketball championship, follow live. Cuba Flag leads Duke versus Houston, and it's got the score right at the top. I don't understand what you're complaining about.
I don't see the other score for the other game anywhere on here. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well,
apparently Florida has won. That's
Florida beat Alabama.
We want to know where Grant Holloway was. Grant Holloway anticipated Florida playing in the Final Four today. He could not be running a track meet while the Gators were in the Final Four. So
okay, Robert.
Apparently, Matthew Spencer's picks were bad. Robert Johnson's. Well, I didn't pick Wanyonyi, but I anticipated the potential years ago. All right, John.
Years ago? What? Less than 1 year ago, he ran a road mile at the end of April 2024, and you freaked out about it. And you were proven right, Robert. I'm taking the L on this one. He came in, he put on a show. It was freaking awesome. Thank you, Michael Johnson and Kyle Merber, for making this happen, because I'm not confident we would have ever seen this otherwise. Though I guess Wanyonyi, now he's got a taste for the 1500. Maybe we will see it more often. It'd be great. Wouldn't it be great if he comes back like the final slam? I know this isn't going to happen, but this is my dream scenario: is the next two, whatever, Hocker, Nuguse, Kerr, they're still going to be entertaining. But then you get Jakob and Wanyonyi show up and run the 1500, 800 in LA. Or just have them all race against each other at the Bowerman Mile a week later. Either way, I'd be happy with it. But that would be incredible. I'm not sure if Wanyonyi, as an Adidas guy, would be on board with flying all the way out to Eugene to run a mile. But we can only hope.
Wow. And then we can also make the field of interest do the pole vault high jump double. That's next year, 2026. They'll probably get rid of the 3K, 5K and do the pole vault high jump double. Until then, if you enjoyed the show, folks, join the Supporters Club. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. Those people will be they didn't have to catch it live. They'll wake up in the morning on their way to church. They'll be bowing down, listening to Pastor Robert and Assistant Pastor Jonathan Gold. Good night, people.